Story 1. Let's head to Pennsylvania, USA for this truly horrifying tale of a haunted house that will give you sleepless nights. Deanna Simpson and Tom Simpson were on the lookout for a new home, somewhere where they can make a fresh start and call it home. They drove through a quiet neighborhood, the kind with white picket fences, maple trees, and neighbors who would say a cheerful hello to you as you passed them by. They saw a house for sale. It was quirky and charming. It reminded Deanna of her childhood home in Kentucky, a home which gave her many happy memories. This was a dream home, a dream that would soon become a nightmare. The couple moved. They plowed their savings into doing up their new home. New furniture was bought. It was redecorated from top to bottom. All the hard work had paid off, and it was such a relief to finally have it finished. Now they could finally call it their home. Both Tom and Deanna were looking forward to a good night's sleep after a few exhausting weeks. This is when the nightmare began, quite literally. Deanna was asleep, but she was having a troubled, dark, disturbing sleep. She was having a nightmare, or so she thought. She could see two men, dark in shape and eyes of darkness, looming over her as she lay in bed. They did not move but stood there, silently staring at her. She awoke startled. As she looked up, her heart froze, for the two men were there, at the end of the bed, staring at her. She wanted to scream with all her might, but she was scared beyond her wildest nightmares. She couldn't get a sound out. She shook her husband awake. He awoke startled, but the figures were gone. Tom insisted she must have just been asleep the whole time. But Deanna knew what she saw. It was going to get worse, much worse. The next day, Deanna was alone in the house when she heard crying coming from one of the upstairs rooms. Surely this cannot be real. She went to the room where she could hear the crying and slowly opened the door. The crying stopped. There was no one there. Deanna tried to rationalize it, but deep down, she knew there was something supernatural happening. As she walked onto the landing, she heard footsteps on the stairs. There was nobody there, but she could clearly hear them. She froze as she was expecting something to appear. Nothing did, but she knew something was there watching her. Deanna would tell her husband about the strange smells and weird noises she'd heard. She would occasionally hear the sound of children laughing. Their pet cat would often scowl at something unseen on the stairs. It would seem agitated and very often frightened. Their pet cat sadly became ill not long after moving into the house and had to be put to sleep. One morning, Deanna was in the bathroom. As she looked into the mirror, she was horrified to see in the reflection there was a little girl on the floor, seemingly dead. She was covered in blood. The walls were also sprayed with blood. She thought for a moment the little dead girl was going to get up. Deanna didn't wait around long enough to find out. She quickly ran to get her husband. Barely able to speak, she told her what had just happened. He quickly rushed up to the bathroom and found nothing. Deanna would hear voices on a more frequent business. She always felt like she was being watched. Her husband would be at work most of the time. He was annoyed when she brought the unexplained events up. He thought she must be imagining things. Her mind was overthinking things. They had put way too much money into the house to even consider selling up already. Deanna was upset. She questioned her sanity and even read up on schizophrenia, in case she were displaying symptoms. Deanna decided to spend some time in the garden. It was a slightly overcast day. She heard somebody behind her and was startled to see an old lady stood there with a three-legged dog by her side. The old lady said to Deanna,
"You know a little boy was killed in the basement, don't you?"
Deanna looked up at the house. When she turned back around to speak to the old lady, she was shocked to find she wasn't there. Deanna saw things happen on a regular basis, but it didn't make it any easier to process. Although Tom initially dismissed the supernatural occurrences, he would still smell the occasional scent of rotting flesh and hear what sounded like gunshot blast in other rooms on the occasional night he was not working. He would put it down to something like intermittent smells possibly caused by plumbing, even though the smells weren't constant. He tried to convince Deanna the gunshot sounds must be coming from outside, although deep down he knew they weren't. Deanna and Tom's teenage daughter, Amber, moved into their home after spending her residential time at college. Deanna felt more at ease. Having somebody around during the day made her feel a sense of relief. Perhaps she was hoping this may help her cope with the haunting. Within a short space of time, Amber had witnessed the haunting too. It was too much. Amber would go to bed but feel like the darkness in her bedroom was way darker than it should. She thought she could see figures stood in the dark in her room. Night after night, Amber would hear footsteps outside her door. She would hear whispers. Amber was petrified. How much more of this could she take? One morning, Amber was in the basement with her mother, helping her with the laundry, when the light suddenly went out, plunging the basement into pitch black darkness. They both just knew someone or something was in there with them. They both scrambled to find their way out. They discovered it wasn't a blown fuse. The actual light switch had been switched off. The Simpsons' poor daughter decided she couldn't live there anymore and moved out. Tom Simpson started to take more notice. He would often feel the sensation of burning on his body, and found scratch marks on his body that simply could not be explained. One dark night, Deanna walked across the landing as she desperately needed the toilet. She glanced at the window and saw a woman staring straight back at her through the window. The woman had an expression of pure hatred and evil etched across her face. She just kept on staring at Deanna right into her eyes. Deanna would see this dark presence several times more. She got in touch with a minister based at a church just over the road. The minister tried to bless the house and cleanse it of anything evil lurking within the house, but she unexpectedly became hostile and said she could not do it. As the minister rushed out of the house, she appeared to leave dark burnt into the floor footprints. The Simpsons could not remove the footprint marks. They seemed ingrained into the floor. The Simpsons were at their wits' end. They began to see mysterious black shapes glide through the doors and swirl into the corners of the room. Deanna got in touch with the paranormal investigation team. An investigation was conducted and they told the poor family their home appeared to be haunted by at least 5 entities, one of which seems to be demonic. There have been several instances where a shadow figure has been seen. It stands over 7 foot tall. Deanna has caught this demonic entity on camera. She also caught it on video footage, which we shall come to very soon. It is truly shocking. It was the same shadow demon that pushed Deanna down the stairs one time in an attempt to try and kill her. She ended up fracturing her ankle. A medium working for the paranormal investigation team told the couple that there was a dangerous, hateful entity who liked to hurt women. Also, an ex-NYPD detective was also hired to uncover some dark history behind the house. History so dark, it would come to consume the house. Of darkness, it was uncovered that a little girl was drowned at the property, and a young man during the 18th century had been shot in the face and died in the house. It was also used for satanic ceremonies and Ouija board sessions. The house was steeped in dark and disturbing energy. Deanna would wake up many a night and see the shadowman stood at the end of the bed watching her. Deanna began to sleep in a spare bedroom in the vain hope she may get some sleep. No such luck. There was more chance of Charles Manson winning Humanitarian of the Year award. The first night in the spare bedroom, she was asleep when she suddenly awoke. Startled, someone or something was getting into bed with her. It felt like her body had turned to stone. She could not move. The supernatural being lay next to her all night. This would happen almost every night from there on in. Deanna would wake up to the feeling of her hair being stroked, and sometimes she would see the apparition of a female sat on her bed. The Simpson family would have loved to have moved out, but sadly it wasn't that simple. Their house became infamous for its hauntings and demonic shenanigans. If they were to sell, they would stand to lose a substantial amount of money. It just could not be done. News got out and the media became interested. Everybody loves a good horror story. In 2014, the news channel Fox 43 got in touch with The Simpsons and were allowed access for an interview with Deanna Simpson. It was an interview that would shock the world. The news crew were initially skeptical and were hoping for a couple of creepy stories from somebody they assumed were just making stuff up, but they got more than they bargained for. Within minutes of interviewing Deanna Simpson inside the house, one of the news crew felt a burning sensation on his arm, and moments later, scratches appeared, visibly shaken. The news crew also experienced a door closing shut after Deanna Simpson requested it shut. Watch the footage here. What do you think?
If that is you, would you please shut that door? Oh my God.
As the news crew went mooching around in the basement, orbs were witnessed, but more importantly, the hand of what appears to be the demonic Shadowman appears. Take a look.
Simpson recorded on her cell phone camera. She was hoping it would catch orbs, but it shows something else too. It looks like a hand.
Oh, what? Did you see that?
The Simpsons to this day have to live with the hauntings, being watched by demons and a creepy woman staring through the window, as well as the paranormal sounds of children playing. Maybe one day before it's too late, they might escape the haunted Hanover home. When you go to bed tonight, don't forget to close your curtains, in case there's a face staring back at you. And watch out for those shadow men at the end of your bed. Story 2. Have you heard of the sinister events known as Devil's Footprints that have appeared across England? Well, you are about to. Many people believe the devil walks amongst us, checking to see if everything is in order, maybe scouting for new souls to corrupt and obtain. What you are about to hear next on Nightmare Truth is truly bizarre. Back in December 2010 in Liverpool, a city in the northwest of England that was home to the Beatles, Cilla Black, and Scousers, was caught up in a raging snowstorm. It was one of the most intense snowstorms in their history. Temperatures were below freezing, and very soon 3 dog walkers would see something that will send chills down their spines. It was very early on this cold winter morning as they entered the nearby Calderstones Park, a park which has ample space and plenty of areas for a dog to run around. The sky was still dark as the winter was reluctant to let the light in. It was quiet and eerie when one of the dog walkers pulled back on his dog as it began to growl and started to back away as though it had sensed something not good was standing there in front of it. The dog walker was amazed to see what looked like a trail of hoof footprints in the snow. What was rather strange was the hoof footprints went together side by side, and not in a slightly haphazard way that maybe an animal would create. 2 other dog walkers came across the hoofed footprints too, but from a fair distance away, as the hoofed footprints trail went on for around 1,000 feet before they mysteriously vanished, as if the devil itself had walked through the snow and then simply vanished into thin air. The footprints resembled the devil's hooves, and it would not be the first time the devil has walked through the city of Liverpool. Way back in 1866, there happened to be a snowstorm. It came down fast and hard. Anybody unfortunate enough to be out in it would have found themselves almost waist deep in the snow. On a cold, dark morning, quite a few people discovered a trail of hooves. They too went in pretty much a straight line. The police were alerted as they began to arouse feelings of fear in the hearts of the locals. They thought the work of the devil was at play here. A policeman studied the tracks and noticed they were hoof-like. He saw that they went in a straight line, unlike the tracks of any animal he ever knew of. He followed the trail, which was estimated to travel the length of 70 to 80 miles. Maybe it could have been attributed to an animal that walked in a strange manner, but the tracks actually split to walk beside a wall on both sides, and when it happened to come across Oldham Street, the tracks had even gone over the roofs of a couple of houses that were covered in snow, yet the footprints still managed to walk across the roofs. They then went across the ground and suddenly stopped, vanished into thin air like they had shot up into the sky. The townsfolk soon knew about this creepy, strange phenomenon. They were frightened, they were angry, and demanded to know what had created these footprints of the devil. If it were a prank, then how could it be explained that the hoofed footprints appeared on the roof of houses without the snow being disturbed in any way? People were afraid to go out at night, and the churches became packed with people, frightened beyond their wits, looking for a god to save them. These footprints have also appeared in 1855 in Dorset and Devon in the south of England. They too were witnessed by many, and also the trail was very similar and was estimated to have traveled over 50 miles. The devil sure does like to walk. They also appeared to walk up snow-covered walls, over roofs, and even across a river. It would appear the devil has the power of ubiquity. Surely if this were a prank, it would be nigh on impossible to pull off, especially without having been seen and for such long distances and over unreachable areas. The work of the devil indeed. Over 150 years later, the devil's footprints appeared again. It was March 2009 when grandmother Jill Wade ventured into her back garden after heavy snowfall. The night before, she was shocked to discover the devil's footprints. What are these mysterious footprints? What is the devil up to? Could it be walking outside your door right now? Maybe having a peer into your house? Where is it going to stop?
Did you lock your door? Sleep tight.